Hi everyone, this is ZephyrSpecs again. I'm here to show you another deck. This time it's a Simic deck. I'm calling it Simic Evolution because there are a couple of cards that have evolution in the name, and it's kind of the theme of the deck. So this looks like a pretty good opening hand to me. 3 lands, some early game plays. These Evolving Wilds in the deck are one of the evolving cards, and it lets me search for a land and put it onto the battlefield tapped. This is good because a lot of the creatures in the deck, Explore is one of the themes, and we can get more +1/+1 counters with Explore if we fish those lands out of the deck, so that we're more likely to get non-land cards on the Explore. Also, these Evolution Sage cards in my hand, they let us proliferate, which puts another +1/+1 counter on anything that has a counter already. Whenever we play a land, and when we play Evolving Wilds, we actually get 2 triggers on Evolution Sage, because we have put 2 lands onto the battlefield in 1 turn. So I played Wild Growth Walker, that's my early game play. The life gain you get from Wild Growth Walker can be really useful in this deck. Every time it explores, it gets, anytime any of my creatures explore, it gets a counter, and I gain 3 life, and that can really add up in this deck, where we try to explore multiple times with Wild Growth Walker and Merfolk Branch Walker, who explores twice on ETB. And Enter the Unknown, we have 4 of it. It lets any creature explore for 1 green mana. Since gaining +1/+1 counters is the main point of this deck, those explorers are a way to put counters on creatures. They also will fish out a land if the explorer hits a land. But we try to fish out those lands again with Evolving Wilds, and also 2 Open the Gates, which just gets a land out of the deck. So my opponent has played a bunch of creatures, and I played Pollen Bright Druid. The reason I put a counter on the Druid and not on Wild Growth Walker is when I play Evolution Sage now, when I play a land, it'll proliferate, and both of those creatures will get counters instead of just Walker if I had put the +1/+1 counter onto Wild Growth Walker. Now I'm going to explore with Evolution Sage. I'm hoping it gets a counter as well, but it didn't. It gets a land. If it had gotten a counter, I would then be able to proliferate next turn, hopefully, but getting a land wasn't so bad because I added more counters to those creatures. I'm going to attack with them, bringing my opponent down to 9 life. I'm not super worried about their creatures. Gutterbones, it just comes back from the graveyard. It's a sacrifice creature. The Orzhov creature, whenever one of their creatures dies, they gain 1 life, I lose 1 life. They've only played 3 lands, which makes me think they probably have something in their hand that they can't play. Yeah, they passed. Incubation, this dual card I mostly use for incubation, although the other side of it can exile a creature. But incubation's a useful 1-drop. I often play it turn 1 if I have it in my hand. It lets me get a creature. Because I'm manipulating the ratio of lands to creatures with all these cards that help me get lands out of the deck, this card is actually more likely to run into creatures, and I get to choose any creature in the top 4 cards. Almost always I get a creature with incubation. I'm sacking Herald of Secret Streams, which lets me... opponents can't block creatures with +1/+1. That card is often like the late game win card because I'll have built up an army of creatures with counters on them, and then I play that and the opponent can't block any of them. However, I don't need it anymore because if any of my creatures hit, it'll be game over and my opponent only has 2 creatures on the field. Oh, they got around it. They got a 3rd one. So if they sacrifice... Yep, they gain some life. But they kind of put themselves into a corner here, because they now once again can't block all of my creatures. Yep, so I think that will be game. And that's it. Alright, thanks for watching.